Okay, so in example one, the directions say use the definition of the word percent to write each percent as a fraction and then as a decimal. So the definition of percent, type that down here. The definition of percent says that a percent is an amount out of 100. Okay, so we're going to use this to help us rewrite these percentages as both a fraction and as a decimal. Let's start with a fraction. We've got 37.5%. That means that if we're writing this as a fraction, we have 37.5 out of 100. So we actually write this as 37.5 over 100. So it becomes a fraction where we have our numerator is 37.5 and our denominator is 100. Now let's look at the next one. We have 100%. So as a fraction, this is written as 100 out of 100 or 100 over 100. So then how do you think we would write 110% as a fraction? Yes, it would be 110 over 100, where the 110 represents the numerator and the 100 represents the denominator. And then 1% would be what? Yes, 1 out of 100 or 1 over 100. Now, for this 1/2%, how do you think we would write that? Yes, we could write this as 1/2 over 100, and that's a complex fraction. We could also think about what does 1/2 look like as a decimal? Well, 1/2 looks like 0.5. So we could actually write this also as 0.5 over 100. Okay, now let's explore how we would write these percentages as a decimal. Once again, we're using that definition of what percent means, an amount out of 100. So when we're writing this as a decimal, we are actually going to take our percentage and we're going to divide it by 100. So you take your percent and divide it by 100. I have a little note for ourselves so we can remember that as well. So when writing from a percentage to a decimal, we're going to divide that percentage by 100. So let's look at this. We've got 37.5 and we're going to divide it by 100. So 37.5, and let's insert that division symbol. So we're going to go to special characters, type in the word divide. Sometimes it comes up if we just do divvy. Bam, there it is. And look, it's inserted. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this because we're gonna be rewriting this a couple of times and I won't have to go through that again. So 37.5 divided by 100. Now, we can use our knowledge of place value to understand how to rewrite this when we're dividing by 100. What we know about place value is that anytime we divide by a multiple of 10 or multiply by a multiple of 10, it shifts our digits across the place value chart, either increasing in value or decreasing in value. Since we are dividing by 100, that means that our digits are shifting in a way that they are going to decrease in value. So that means that they're going to shift from wherever they are so that they're decreasing. So that means they're going to be moving to the which direction? Yes, our digits going to be shifting to the right because as digits shift to the right, they decrease in value. So since we're dividing by 100, we are actually going to have two shifts. So our digits are shifting twice on the other side. You'll see some of these digits move on the other side of the decimal since we're switching two place values lower. So we can rewrite that 37.5 to where our 5 that was in the 10th place is now the first shift going to move it to the 100th place. And in the second shift, it'll move to the 1000th place. So we rewrite this in decimal form 37.5% is written as 0.375 thousandths. Okay, so let's look at another example. Now we have 100%, and we're going to rewrite this as a decimal. So once again, we're taking that 100% and we are going to divide it by 100. Well, that one's kind of easy because we have 100 divided by 100, and everybody knows that that's 1. But let's still entertain this idea of digits shifting. So if I have 100 and my digits are shifting 2 place values lower, that means that the 0 that was in the ones place is now moving to the tenths. And with our second shift, that first 0 or that last 0 on the right is now going to shift to the hundredths place. So notice that in this instance, all of our digits are still shifting, including the 1. The 1 was in the hundredths place, and now it's shifted 2 place values lower to the ones place. So now you try it. How do you think we would write this 110% as a decimal? Pause the video and then hit start after you've come up with your answer. All right, so we've got 110%. And yes, we are dividing this by 100. All of our digits are going to shift 2 place values to the right, decreasing in value. So when we rewrite this, 110, we're going to have that 0 that was in the hundreds, in the ones place, shift to the tenths place. And then when we shift again, it's shifting to the hundredths place. So we place our decimal right here in between the ones, which leaves us with 1 and 10 hundredths. What about 1%? How will this shift? What will 1% look like as a decimal? Fill your answer out, pause the video, fill the answer out, and then hit play when you're ready. Okay, so we've got 1% and we are dividing this once again by 100. So we want that 1 to shift 2 place values to the right, so it decreases in value. So 1 is no longer going to be in the ones place. We shift the first time, now it's in the tens place. We shift a second time, now it's in the hundredths place. So what we end up with is 1/100th. That is what 1% looks like as a decimal. So then how would we do this 0.5%? Well, let's think about this idea of rewriting 1/2 as 0.5. So if we acknowledge that we're starting with 0.5 and we're applying that same definition that we've been using so far to rewrite percentages as a decimal, we're going to do the same task, which would be to divide by 100. So in this particular case, we would just shift our digits 2 place values to the right again. So this 5 that was already in the tenths place will now shift 1 time to the hundredths place and then a second time to the thousandths place. So that's leaving us with a decimal of 5 thousandths. All right, go ahead and head to the next slide.